Behind the rubber face and manic energy that made Jim Carrey a comedy legend lies a darkness that few fans truly understand. The man who seemed incapable of taking anything seriously has spent a lifetime wrestling with depression, existential dread, and a profound sense of emptiness that success only magnified. This isn't just another rags to riches Hollywood story. It's the fascinating paradox of a man who made millions laugh while battling his own demons in silence. A man who has been called many things, but few truly understand why he may be Hollywood's most broken genius. Born into poverty in Ontario, Canada, Carrey's childhood collapsed when his father lost his accounting job, forcing the family into homelessness. Living out of a VW van and later a tent on his sister's lawn, the young Jim watched his father, once his hero, struggle as a failed musician and factory security guard. At just 15, Carrey dropped out of school to work 8-hour factory shifts after class, his dreams seemingly as dead as his father's. These formative years of hardship would later fuel both his desperate ambition and the cynicism that colored his view of success. But something in Carrey refused to surrender. Comedy became his escape, his survival mechanism, his identity. By 17, he was performing stand-up, his impressions and physical comedy gaining attention. Yet even in these early years, the pattern was clear. Carrey wasn't just funny, he was desperately trying to be loved. His father had taught him that being funny could win affection, and Jim turned that lesson into an obsession. "My father was a musician who got a regular job to support his children," Carrey once revealed. When he lost his job, that's when everything fell apart. He was just one of the many people who got broken by life. The transformation from club comic to Hollywood icon happened with almost supernatural speed. After years of false starts and small roles, including his stint on the sketch comedy show In Living Color, Carrey exploded into stardom with 1994's Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, followed immediately by The Mask and Dumb and Dumber in the same year. Suddenly, the homeless kid from Canada was commanding $20 million per film, the first actor in history to reach that milestone. "I feel like my soul was crushed under the weight of becoming a celebrity," he would later confess in a moment of stark honesty. But success didn't heal Carrey, it exposed the cracks. The man who made the world laugh was privately drowning in depression. "I was on Prozac for a long time," Carrey once admitted. "It may have helped me out of a jam for a little bit, but people stay on it forever. I had to get off at a certain point because I realized everything's just okay." The medication dulled his pain, but also his connection to himself, leaving him in a limbo where nothing felt truly good or bad, just bearably numb. Just okay. The phrase haunts Carrey's career. Despite becoming one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, despite the mansions and the millions, despite the adoration of millions, nothing ever felt like enough. The void remained. The broken home, the failed father, the hunger to be loved. The fear, it was all meaningless. This inner conflict created the fascinating duality of Carrey's career. For every slapstick comedy, like Liar Liar, there was a dark, complex film like The Truman Show or Man on the Moon. The latter revealed just how dangerously devoted Carrey could be to his craft, as he disappeared so completely into the role of Andy Kaufman that he lost touch with his own identity. The documentary Jim and Andy shows a man not just playing a part, but experiencing a kind of possession, a terrifying glimpse into Carrey's fragile grip on self. Crew members were disturbed by how completely he inhabited Kaufman, staying in character even when cameras weren't rolling, speaking with Kaufman's voice and refusing to answer to Jim. "Jim Carrey doesn't exist," he once told an interviewer, deadly serious beneath the smile. "There's just a relative manifestation of consciousness appearing, and someone gave it a name, a religion, a nationality, and he clustered those together and tried to survive." In these moments, the line between Carrey's philosophical awakening and a complete dissociative break from reality becomes frighteningly thin. The statement sounds like the ravings of a madman or the wisdom of a monk. And with Carrey, the line has always been impossibly thin. His journey into spirituality wasn't the casual Hollywood Buddhism many celebrities adopt, it was a desperate search for meaning. After the suicide of his ex-girlfriend, Catriona White, in 2015, Carrey's existential crisis deepened. He retreated from the spotlight, grew a prophet's beard, and began creating disturbing, politically charged artwork. The wrongful death lawsuit filed by White's family, though eventually dismissed, subjected Carrey to the kind of scrutiny and personal attack that would have broken a less resilient soul. The industry that once courted him now whispered about his sanity. But perhaps Carrey was simply done pretending. The mask, both literal and metaphorical, had served its purpose. It had made him rich and famous. It had won him the love he craved as a child, but it hadn't made him whole. I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer, he once said with characteristic insight. What makes Carrey's story so compelling is that it's fundamentally about the human condition. The face-pulling clown who made millions laugh was actually asking the same questions we all ask. Why am I here? What's the point of all this? Does anyone really love me for who I am, or only for what I can do for them? His comedy was never just about getting laughs, it was about connection, about being seen, about transcending the pain of existence through shared joy. His career choices reflect this internal struggle. After conquering comedy, Carrey repeatedly risked his commercial appeal to take on challenging, unconventional roles. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind showcased a vulnerable, heartbroken Carrey miles away from his rubber-faced persona. The Number 23 explored paranoia and obsession. Even The Cable Guy, though a commercial disappointment at the time, revealed Carrey's willingness to explore the darker side of loneliness and rejection. Director Judd Apatow later revealed that during filming, Jim was incredibly intense. He was going through a divorce and bringing all that emotional turmoil to the set every day. These weren't the safe choices of a man content with his place in Hollywood. They were the restless explorations of someone trying to understand himself through his art and often frightening studio executives in the process. For every yes man or Bruce Almighty that played to his comedic strengths, Carrey insisted on projects that pushed boundaries and challenged perceptions. His agents and managers frequently advised against these riskier choices, but Carrey followed his own compass, sometimes to his financial detriment. What many failed to recognize is that Carrey's greatest strength as an actor was never his physical comedy, impressive as it was. His true gift was his almost supernatural empathy, an ability to so completely understand human pain and longing that he could channel it into performances that transcended genre. The manic energy wasn't just funny, it was desperate. The sad eyes behind the smile weren't just acting, they were windows into genuine sadness. "I'm a hard guy to live with," he once confessed. "I'm like a caged animal. I'm up all night walking around the living room. It's hard for me to come down from what I do." By the mid-2010s, Carrey's appearances became increasingly erratic. A now infamous red carpet interview at New York Fashion Week showed him circling a bewildered reporter, declaring, "There's no meaning to any of this. I wanted to find the most meaningless thing I could come to and join, and here I am." When the reporter attempted to salvage the interview with small talk about the event, Carrey doubled down, "There is no me, there is no you, there are just things happening." The entertainment press labeled it a breakdown. They missed the point. Carrey wasn't breaking down, he was breaking free. After decades of performing, of stretching his face into impossible shapes for approval, of making himself small enough to fit inside a Hollywood box, he was finally saying what he truly believed, that fame is empty, that identity is illusion, that we're all just playing parts. "I don't believe in personalities," he said. "I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself." The tragedy and the triumph of Jim Carrey is that he achieved everything our culture promises will make us happy. Money, fame, adoration, power, and he had the rare courage to stand in the middle of it all and say, "This isn't it. This doesn't fix the hole inside me." In a 2017 mini-documentary, he revealed, "I believe that suffering leads to salvation. In fact, it's the only way. That we all have to somehow feel like we're less than nothing before we realize that we're everything." In recent years, Carrey has largely retreated from Hollywood, focusing instead on painting. Massive, colorful canvases that pulse with the same frenetic energy that once animated his performances. The art, often political and deliberately provocative, seems less about pleasing an audience and more about exorcising demons. "I like the independence of it," he said of painting. "I love the freedom of it. No one else tells you what you can or can't do most of the time. No one else tells you what it's worth." When he does take acting roles now, they're carefully chosen. His turn as Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic the Hedgehog films shows he can still access the manic brilliance that made him famous. But gone is the desperation to prove himself, the need to be the biggest and the best. The man who once contorted himself into a human pretzel for laughs now appears content to simply be. At 63, Carrey seems to have finally found some measure of peace in abandoning the pursuit that consumed his life. "I really don't want to be in the business anymore," he stated bluntly in a 2022 interview. "I'm being fairly serious." After completing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, he announced his intention to retire unless the angels bring some sort of script that's written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be really important for people to see. The boy who once contorted his face for pennies, who sacrificed everything to make strangers laugh, who twisted himself into impossible shapes to win love, has finally granted himself permission to stop performing. He's not Jim Carrey anymore. He's just Jim, whoever that turns out to be. "My identity was attached to being a comedian," he reflected. "That's what I was trying to be all my life. The best comedian I could possibly be. But I realized that the struggle to be the best comedian wasn't going to give me any release." Perhaps that's the real genius of Carrey's broken journey. In a culture obsessed with fame, with being seen and validated and liked, he had the courage to step into the spotlight, reach the pinnacle, and then point out that the emperor has no clothes. That fame doesn't heal. That money doesn't fulfill. That pretending to be someone else for a living might cost you your sense of self. His story is a warning and an inspiration, a cautionary tale about the price of fame and a testament to the power of reinvention. The rubber face that launched 1,000 GFs is now lined with age and experience, but the eyes are clearer than they've ever been. "Life opens up opportunities to you," Carrey once said, "and you either take them or you stay afraid of taking them." Jim Carrey, a broken genius who made us laugh until he couldn't pretend anymore and then had the courage to show us his tears. In an industry built on illusion, that might be the most revolutionary act of all.